You guys did it exactly the right order. Next to Jacob is Megan Deach Goyle, who is the children's book buyer at Book People, the awesome Book People bookstore in Austin, Texas. And then on the outside is David Levitin, who is a really wonderful author and the editorial director at Scholastic. And he's here with both hats on today. You can't see them, but they're both there. And today we're going to talk a little bit about sort of who are these teen readers and how are they relating to digital media and to regular books. So as I mentioned, we did this survey last fall that was sponsored by Random House, Hachette, Scholastic, Penguin, and Macmillan, and HarperCollins. And what we wanted to do was set out to actually survey the children's consumer book market. This kind of survey had never been done before. We have lots of sales data on this part of the market, and we know what we think happens as booksellers and publishers. But we had never actually actively gone out and talked to consumers about things that were driving their choices in the book market. And given all of the changes both in technology and consumer behavior and in content, we thought it might be a good idea to actually ask the consumers. So we did. We did a survey of 1,500 children's book consumers who had all bought a children's book within the last year. We surveyed 500 consumers of books for 0 to 6, 500 consumers for 7 to 12, and then 500 teens, 500 actual living and breathing teens in households where YA books have been bought. And the sample was actually balanced to the U.S. Census, so we had a really accurate read on both the geography, the economics of the market, so that there's a very high percentage of accuracy, less than 2% margin of error in this survey. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides of the actual data, and don't get hung up, this is very complicated, but I just wanted to set the stage for the conversation that we're about to have. So I'm going to interpret these for you. We asked teens what activities they had done often. And this is a ranked list. It starts at the top with send and receive text messages, 67%. Visit your page on Facebook, 58%. Read books for fun, 39%. I thought it was pretty cool that that came in pretty high on the list. And then visited others' profiles on social networking sites. Those were the top 4. Discussed books with my parents came in at number 5. Discussed books with friends came in at number 6. So clearly, these teens in our survey were very active adopters of things like Facebook and texting and handhelds. But we were really surprised to find out what was also on the bottom. Okay? Discuss books online at the bottom, 3%. Regularly visit celebrity sites and gossip sites, 5%. Post videos online, 5%. Blog, 8%. Follow celebrities on Facebook, Twitter, or other, 8%. So we thought this was pretty curious, because clearly teens are adopting technology at the top and not adopting other kinds of technology at the bottom. And that was a surprise, because I think there's a mythology of teens that they are voracious adopters of technology, period. So clearly something was going on here. And then when we overlapped it with information about what they were doing and where they were getting their recommendations, a really interesting pattern started to emerge. So here's parents and teachers and close friends that they are the biggest influencers on teens. So this was a question where we asked what the relative influences on their reading choices. And so parents came in at 55%, the top of the heap, followed by teachers, close friends, and larger circle of friends. Again, at the bottom, they're not really paying attention to what celebrities are saying. They're not really paying attention to what sports players are saying. The very bottom is recommendations from celebrities on Twitter and Facebook. They are very much tuned into their local communities and their local social circles and completely tuned out to the larger world out there. Not particularly paying attention to the sort of marketing machine out in the larger world. And again, great news for us in the book business. We asked them, even though their books aren't at the top of the list in terms of what they're actually spending their time doing, we wanted to know how they were valuing books. And when we asked teens, this grid is less important, equal, or more important than the red. Turns out that 63% of teens said that books were equal or more important than other media in their lives. And it actually climbs up to 70%, 80% when you're looking at girls. So books, they're valuing books very, very highly in their day-to-day lives, even though they may not be reading as much as they did in the younger age groups. So we thought that was pretty interesting. And the last slide has to do with ebooks. Now, this survey was run in October, November last year, so we're going to track this. We're actually just getting ready to field the survey again to see whether or not this moves. But basically, we asked them whether or not they strongly prefer print, generally prefer print, have no preference, generally prefer ebooks, strongly prefer ebooks, and don't know on the top. So what you're really looking at is the blue and the red. Blue is I strongly prefer print, and when you group it in with I generally prefer print, you're looking at a very high percentage of teens that have strong preference for print and a very low adoption rate of ebooks. So that was kind of shocking to everybody who was behind this survey, because I think we have a lot of ideas about the sort of growth in ebooks, and we're certainly seeing a really strong push in ebook sales, but teens are saying that they want paper. So what's going on here? So this panel, we're going to talk today a little bit about the reality and the mythology behind these teen readers, sort of what these guys have experienced in their own professional lives around these teens, and we're going to talk a little bit about strategies for trying to talk to and engage with these teen readers. So I'm just going to start by asking you guys, who are today's teens, and how do you guys think the reality differs from the mythology of these disaffected, plugged in, tuned out kids that we hear so much hand-wringing over? David, you want to start? As an author and...
Which hat am I wearing?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think fundamentally they're the same teens that we were. And I think that the technology changes, but the aspirations, the relationship with books and with writing doesn't really change that much. Accessibility does, and I think obviously they know people in the wider world much more than the pre-internet generation, of which I was one of the last members, do. But at the same time, I mean, when you talk to teens, again, and what they want out of books and what they want out of a reading experience, you could easily be talking to somebody 30 or 50 years ago. I don't think that has necessarily changed. I think the study sort of follows that. I think they are more plugged in, and I think that they are getting their stories and they're getting their texts from all different sources now, not just from books. But at the same time, again, I think what the desire for a story and what the desire for a book is, it's not fundamentally different. They want something that's real. Real means engaging their emotions and them seeing themselves reflected in it, or something they want to know about reflected in it. I think, again, that hasn't really changed very much. So, again, I think we tend to assume that they're an alien race, and I think that is a really, really false assumption. And every minute I've spent with a teenager in the past 5 years as an author or as a publisher has sort of proven that to me, that it is the story, it's the characters, it's the writing that gets to them, it's not the technology. Now, again, I think the technology is going to shift. I think the ebook things we're seeing now, I do think it's going to tip. I think if you had taken, in 1994, a poll of teenagers saying, would you rather write letters to each other, or would you like to use this new electronic mail that's happening, I bet the statistics would have been very similar. Oh no, that's so impersonal. Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I love writing letters, I love handwriting, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's amazing how our paradigm shifts. But at the same time, I think again, when you're actually talking about the story, you're talking about the actual content, I don't think that's going to change at all. I think they're still going to want the same things, whatever form they tend to read the words on the page.
I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up. Do you think that, do you anticipate that handhelds and iPads might sort of their behavior around those devices might be different than their behavior around things like standalone e-readers? Do you have an opinion?
No, I think if you go where they're living, I mean, that's the whole sort of theme. I mean, you have to go where they're living to get to them, and I think the more that they have devices, rather than standalone, but devices where they can read, will that be their only reading option? Absolutely not. But is it going to be a reading option for them? Absolutely. I think the same way as it is for adults. And so I think we are going to see that developed, but again, I don't think they're going to abandon the paper book. And at the same time, I think it will be hard to convince them to carry around an extra device just for reading. I don't think they want to have their phone and their iPad and a Kindle and their laptop. I think at a certain point, it is sort of going to be the unified field, and then again, they're going to consume appropriately.